Zane Rucker sat rigidly on the edge of the metallic bench, his legs dangling a few inches off the floor of the interstellar quarantine bay. The room was too clean, too quiet, and the soft humming of the sterilizers in the walls made his teeth itch. In front of him stood 3 alien doctors, or at least he assumed they were doctors, tall, vaguely humanoid creatures in shimmering silver robes covered in biosensor patches and blinking indicators. One of them, the tallest, held a containment field around a clear plastic bag containing a bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich. "This substance," the alien said, its skin shifting between pale green and yellow as it spoke, "is classified as biohazardous material on 76 registered planets. It contains saturated lipids, refined carbohydrates, nitrates, and a cholesterol count that exceeds our known safety thresholds by a factor of 11. Zane leaned forward, squinting at the sandwich. "Yeah, it's breakfast." The alien turned to its companions, then back to Zane. "You willingly ingested this? I made it myself. Toasted the English muffin, fried the bacon, scrambled the eggs low and slow. Cheese goes on right at the end so it melts just enough. You want a bite?" All 3 aliens recoiled, their shimmering robes fluttering as if caught in an unseen breeze. The containment field around the sandwich brightened. "You are not authorized to bring unregistered matter into the shared decks of this vessel," the lead alien said. "You could have contaminated the atmospheric stabilizers." "It was wrapped in foil, and in my backpack," Zane said. "And my backpack was zipped, so triple containment." "That is not containment," the alien said. "That is fabric," Zane shrugged. "Well, it worked, no one's dead." That was technically true. But the moment he'd unwrapped the sandwich in the communal eating sector of the diplomatic cruiser, alarms had gone off. The sandwich had been sealed in a force field, and Zane had been escorted gently but firmly into the quarantine bay, where he'd been waiting for over an hour. Long enough for the sandwich to go cold, Zane's stomach grumbled. Loudly, the alien nearest to him tapped its console. "Subject's biological functions suggest nutrient deficit. We are detecting low glycemic reserves." "I'm hungry," Zane said. "Because you stole my breakfast." "We confiscated it," the tall one corrected. "Fine, confiscated, but you don't understand. I haven't eaten since yesterday. I skipped dinner because your ship serves that." "Paste." "It is a balanced sustenance gel," the alien said. "It tastes like minty chalk. It contains all 23 essential nutrients and 6 flavor stabilizers." "Exactly," Zane said. 6 stabilizers for what? To make it taste like sadness?" There was a pause. The aliens conferred quietly in a language that sounded like wet glass sliding over marble. Then the leader turned back to Zane. "You may experience withdrawal symptoms if you are addicted to this substance." "It's not a drug," Zane said, exasperated. "It's a sandwich." The alien's skin rippled with muted pink. "Your species continues to perplex us." "You invited me to this ship," Zane said. "You asked Earth to send a cultural liaison. I'm here to introduce you to human customs. Not to contaminate our vessel. Food is culture." There was another long silence. Then the alien said, "We must run a toxin scan before we return the item." "Fine. Run your scan." Zane crossed his arms and watched as the alien placed the sandwich inside a cylindrical analyzer. Lights spun around it, and a thin puff of steam rose as the machine hissed. After nearly 2 minutes, the display lit up. 73 flagged compounds, the alien said flatly. 4 of them are classified as toxic in mammals resembling your physiology. 1 is a neuroirritant, 2 are carcinogenic, 1 is used in certain cleaning agents. Zane raised an eyebrow. "That's probably the bacon grease. You are not concerned, it's not like I eat this every day." The alien narrowed its eyes if those dark, flat discs could narrow. "This is a highly irresponsible dietary practice." "Welcome to Earth," Zane said. "Now can I eat my sandwich?" The alien hesitated, then looked at the readout again. "We strongly advise against it." Zane stood up, walked over to the analyzer and plucked the sandwich out of the containment tray. The force field flickered off with a soft chime. "Sir," the alien said sharply. "You are risking." Zane took a bite. The cheese had cooled into a semi-solid sheet and the bacon had lost its crunch, but the flavor was still there. Smoky, salty, greasy. He chewed slowly, savoring it. The alien stared in mute horror. "I call this breakfast," Zane said, mouth half full. A sudden wave of dizziness hit him. He wobbled on his feet. The tall alien darted forward and steadied him. "You are experiencing neural disruption." "I stood up too fast," Zane muttered, rubbing his forehead. "You must lie down. I'm fine. You are not fine. Your blood sugar is low. You just ingested multiple known toxins. You are perspiring. Your pupils are dilated. Lie down or we will sedate you." Zane sighed and laid back on the bench. The alien scanned him again, muttering in its language. A second later, it pressed a soft pad against his neck. A dull warmth spread through his chest. "What was that?" Zane asked. "Glucose stabilizer to counteract the deficit." "I thought you didn't want me eating it." "We must now counter the damage," Zane chuckled weakly. "I told you it's just breakfast." The alien didn't respond. It moved to a console and began typing rapidly. For the next 40 minutes, Zane lay there while medical bots checked his vitals. His blood pressure was elevated and his heart rate spiked briefly, but nothing serious. Eventually, one of the bots beeped and retracted into the wall. "You are stabilizing," the lead alien said. "Great, so I can go." "There is a mandatory observation period, 12 hours. 12 hours, for a sandwich." "For the toxins in the sandwich." Zane sat up slowly. "I have a meeting with the council in 2 hours. You will miss it. You're going to tell them I missed it because of breakfast? They will understand when we explain the risk. I'm the first human to set foot on your ship. I'm here to build trust. If I miss that meeting, I'm just another unreliable Earthling." The alien paused. "You are not unreliable, you are unpredictable." "That's a compliment coming from you." "Not really." Zane stood up again, slower this time. "Let me go to the meeting. If I collapse in the middle of it, then you can quarantine me for 12 hours. Deal?" The alien hesitated. Then it nodded. "We will assign a medical observer." "Fine, as long as I'm not late." Zane left the bay, sandwich still in hand, only one bite missing. His stomach still felt unsettled, but he figured that was more from the stress than the food. He made it halfway down the corridor before he saw the observer. It was a small alien, barely shoulder-high, with a rolling medical scanner that hovered beside it like a loyal dog. Its eyes blinked in asynchronous patterns. "You are the toxin consumer," it asked. "That's one way to put it. I will monitor your vital signs. Please do not ingest any more substances." "No promises." The alien followed him the rest of the way to the council chamber. Zane's first step onto the polished floor of the assembly drew an immediate hush. A semicircle of alien dignitaries turned toward him. Some were tall and robed, others squat and scaled, a few shimmered like mist in the soft light. One of them addressed him. "Human Representative Zane Rucker. We were informed of an incident involving a hazardous substance." "Yeah," Zane said. "It was breakfast." Murmurs rippled through the room. The dignitary continued. "You consumed this item knowing its toxicity?" "I did." "Why?" "Because I was hungry," Zane said. "And because it's something my people eat. Not to cause harm, not to rebel, just to feel grounded. Familiar. I'm a long way from home. That sandwich reminded me of it." The room went quiet. Then the dignitary said, "We do not understand. Yet we acknowledge the honesty." Another alien leaned forward. "Will you require medical support for further cultural expressions?" Zane looked to the medical observer, who gave a faint nod. "Probably," Zane said. The assembly was silent for a moment longer. Then the lead dignitary said, "Very well. Let us begin the session." As Zane took his seat, the smell of grease and bread still clinging to his shirt, he realized he'd just started the most important discussion of his life by eating a cold sandwich in front of a room full of aliens who thought it was poison. Zane didn't remember council seats being so unforgiving. He shifted, trying to find a position that didn't compress something vital, but the molded base of the chair seemed designed specifically to discourage comfort. The chamber's acoustics, tuned perfectly for the higher frequency voices of the attending species, gave every cough and shuffle he made an exaggerated echo. A small, squid-like diplomat from the Virelian Confederation had just finished presenting a proposal involving interspecies waste reclamation, a topic Zane had trouble connecting with, especially as the translator drone rendered it in a slow, syrupy monotone. His mind wandered. The medical observer was still beside him, its scanner making intermittent chirps as it tracked his vitals. Zane could feel its gaze, though it didn't have eyes in the usual sense, just a glossy, multifaceted dome that swiveled every so often with a faint hydraulic whir. "Your digestive enzymes remain elevated," it said quietly. "I usually metabolize food with them," Zane replied, barely moving his lips. "You are producing excess bile. That might be the nerves. You are not in danger of expiring, but your internal chemistry is unorthodox. Would you believe this is still better than a job interview on Earth?" The observer paused its scan. "Do Earth employers assess organ function before hiring?" "Not yet." Across the chamber, a tall being composed mostly of fine, translucent filaments rose. Its voice resembled wind brushing over taut wires. "The human has demonstrated a tolerance for self-inflicted biological volatility. This may be indicative of a broader systemic adaptability." Zane straightened. "That's our thing. We're great at not dying." A ripple of color passed through the chamber, the equivalent of a collective wince or raised eyebrow depending on the species. Another delegate, whose skin flickered like a slow strobe, addressed him directly. "Is the ingestion of dangerous substances a routine behavior among your kind?" "Depends on who you ask. Some people eat ghost peppers for fun. Others sign up for boxing matches or climb frozen waterfalls." "Risk isn't always a red flag to us." The translucent delegate tilted its head. "You voluntarily engage in activities with high injury probability?" "Yeah, some of us even train for it." The strobe-skinned one leaned forward. "What is the evolutionary logic in that?" Zane hesitated. "It's not always about logic. Sometimes it's about pushing limits, testing yourself. The challenge is the point." There was a pause and then muted murmuring among several delegations. A being with a segmented carapace clicked out a query in its native pitch, which the translator rendered into flat English. "Does your species derive satisfaction from impairment?" Zane blinked. "No, not the impairment, the overcoming." The medical observer beside him adjusted its scanner. "Your pulse is rising, adrenal glands showing minor activation." "I'm not in distress," Zane said under his breath. "I just hate being misunderstood." The filamented delegate rose again. "It appears we must recalibrate our models. We have categorized survival behavior as reactive. The human suggests they engage in preemptive adversity without environmental necessity." "That's not all humans," Zane said quickly. "But yeah, some of us do that. It's how we ended up flying metal tubes through space before we understood our own oceans." The squid-like diplomat fluttered its appendages. "You explored the void before completing planetary comprehension." We got impatient. A soft chime rang across the chamber, signaling a recess. Delegates began to rise, some unfolding, others retracting limbs. The floor shimmered slightly as individual platforms disengaged. Zane exhaled. "Finally." "You require sustenance," the observer said. "I'm good. You consumed only a partial meal earlier and have since expended significant glucose." "Yeah, well, I'm not going to bite into anything else on this ship without a full diplomatic waiver." The observer tilted. "There is a designated human-compatible nutrition unit in the auxiliary deck. It has been cleared for your use." That sounds ominous. "It is a converted storage module with Earth-standard atmospheric settings and a food processing device based on archived data." Zane stood carefully, stretching his arms. "Lead the way." They moved through 2 curved corridors and a biodetection field that made his hair stand on end. The auxiliary deck was quieter, lit by a softer glow that didn't hurt his eyes. At the far end, a hatch slid open to reveal a small chamber with a folding table, 1 chair, and a squat device resembling a vending machine crossed with a microwave. "This is the unit," said the observer. "It synthesizes from molecular templates." Zane stepped up to the console. "Is it voice-activated?" "Yes. Make me a grilled cheese." The machine beeped, then whirred. A faint flicker passed across a transparent panel and a compartment opened with a puff of steam. Inside was a sandwich, triangular, have stacked neatly on a tray. Zane picked it up cautiously and took a bite. The bread was warm and crispy, the cheese melted evenly. "Not bad," he said. The observer scanned him again. "Your lipids are rising. Sodium intake is elevated. That's how you know it's working. You seem pleased despite suboptimal nutrient ratios. I've eaten worse on road trips." The observer hovered a little closer. "Explain the psychological effect." "It's comfort food, brings back memories. School lunches, rainy afternoons, stuff like that. You are ingesting nostalgia." "In a way." The observer paused, then recorded a note. "Fascinating." Zane finished the sandwich in silence, then leaned back. "I don't suppose you logged any of Earth's desserts in that machine." The observer made a sound like a muffled valve release. "Define dessert." "That's a long conversation." "You got anywhere to be?" The machine produced a second tray, this one holding a small, square piece of what looked suspiciously like chocolate cake. Zane blinked. "You made cake. We extrapolated from sugar-based ceremonial foods." He picked up the square. It smelled faintly of cocoa and something vaguely floral. The texture was spongier than he expected, but the taste wasn't bad. A little too clean. Like cake made by someone who understood the concept but not the craving. "I'll give it a 6 out of 10, he said. "Does it satisfy your cultural needs?" "Almost. You're close." The observer's dome spun briefly. "Would you consider co-designing a database?" "For what?" "Human culinary psychology. We have insufficient data on emotional dependencies related to consumption." Zane raised an eyebrow. "You want me to teach your ship how to cook emotional food?" "We do not wish to replicate cuisine. We wish to understand why you risk internal damage for the sake of familiarity." He put down the fork. "That's not just food, that's everything. Familiarity is safety. Even if it's bad for us, it tells us we're not lost." The observer hovered silently for a moment, then retracted its scanner arm. "You may resume council attendance in 32 minutes. Would you like to rest in the interim?" Zane looked around the chamber. "You got a couch." The wall behind him rippled, and a padded bench extended out. He lay down, hands behind his head. "You know, I thought I'd spend this trip talking about treaties and trade routes. Not grilled cheese and emotional dependencies. You are more informative than anticipated." "Thanks, I think." The room dimmed slightly, and white noise began to play soft waves and distant wind chimes. Zane closed his eyes. When he woke exactly 32 minutes later, the observer was still there, silent and still. Zane sat up, rubbing his face. "Back to the chamber." "Yes." They returned in silence, Zane walking a little straighter now. As they approached the council floor, the translucent filament being intercepted them. "Human representative, we have reviewed your statements. We propose a joint study on species resilience behaviors. It will require active participation." Zane glanced at the observer. "How active?" "You will be exposed to controlled environmental challenges. Extreme temperature, low oxygen zones, emotional simulations." He raised an eyebrow. "You want to stress test me. We wish to understand how your species defines discomfort and how you persist in spite of it." Zane let out a long breath. "I'll need hazard pay." The delegate tilted. "Is that a legal requirement?" "No." "It's tradition." Zane stood on the edge of the simulation chamber, staring at the floor tiles that shimmered faintly like heat mirages. The air smelled faintly metallic. a scent he'd come to associate with the ship's more experimental rooms, the ones they didn't let him into without a signed waiver, and a hovering medical observer. Today, he had two. One was the same dome-headed monitor from earlier. The other was taller, with a long, flexible spine that coiled slightly when it paused. It had no visible limbs, but its voice came through a translator pinned to its front. You will undergo a sequence of calibrated environmental trials. Each will last 5 minutes. You may request termination at any point. Zane glanced at the panel beside the door, and if I black out before I can ask, we will intervene. That's comforting. The taller observer blinked a small red light. Your species' tolerance for risk continues to be statistically discordant with self-preservation norms. Yeah, we get that a lot. The floor shifted under him, and the walls turned a deep, matte black. A low hum started beneath his feet. Trial 1, Thermal Variance. Hot air blasted from vents hidden in the walls. Within seconds, Zane's forearms were glistening. His shirt clung to his back like wet paper. He squinted as the temperature display climbed past 110 degrees Fahrenheit. "This feels like Arizona in July," he muttered. The dome-headed observer tilted. "You have experienced this condition before. Worse. My car broke down outside Yuma once. I had to walk 3 miles with a gallon of gas and a bottle of warm Gatorade. Why did you not call for assistance? No signal. And the gas station guy warned me not to use the bathroom unless I was ready to fight a raccoon." The observers said nothing. At the 5-minute mark, the heat stopped. The room plunged into darkness for 2 seconds, then lit up again, this time in cool blue. Trial 2, Hypothermal Exposure. A sudden chill wrapped around Zane's legs, his breath fogged in the air. Goosebumps ran up his arms and his fingers stiffened almost immediately. "This is less fun." "Your core temperature is dropping," the taller observer said. "We will monitor for shivering thresholds." He took a deep breath, already feeling the tightening in his chest. "If my lips turn blue, that's your cue." "Understood." By the time the chill receded, Zane's teeth were chattering. A warm gel pad slid from the wall behind him, and he rested against it, grateful for the heat. The dome-headed observer moved closer, scanning his face. "You maintained equilibrium longer than the average projection. Thanks. I used to swim in Lake Superior in May. That's like being punched by a glacier. You repeatedly expose yourself to these extremes, not on purpose. But we don't cancel camping trips just because the weather's stupid." The taller observer recorded something on its internal panel. Trial 3, Atmospheric Depletion. The air thinned, not all at once, but gradually, like someone dialing down the oxygen. Zane noticed it when his arms started feeling heavy. Then came the tightness behind his eyes. He sat carefully, leaning against the wall. "Still with us?" the dome head asked. "Yeah, just don't ask me to do math. No movement required. You will remain seated. Good." "Because I don't think I could stand without tipping over." At 4 minutes, he started seeing pinpricks of light at the edges of his vision. His breathing slowed automatically, an old trick from freediving courses he took on a dare back in college. When the air returned, he lay back and groaned. "Okay, so that's what thin air feels like at sea level. Your oxygen saturation dropped below 80%. You should not be conscious." "Guess I'm stubborn." "No," the taller one said. "You are physiologically anomalous." He waved a hand. "We just call it built different." After a short recovery interval, the room changed again. The walls rippled like water. The floor became uneven, then subtly tilted forward. Trial 4, Spatial Disorientation. Zane stood, instantly regretting it. His balance shifted, and he stumbled to the side. The room's depth perception warped. Shadows bent in unnatural arcs along the curvature of the walls. "Feels like trying to walk after spinning in a desk chair. You are being subjected to conflicting gravity vectors and inconsistent horizon alignment." "Yeah, that too." He tried walking forward, but the floor buckled under one foot, then righted itself. He froze, arms out for balance. "Is this supposed to simulate a real environment?" No, it is a composite model designed to test neural compensatory functions. I'm gonna puke, he muttered. You may use the receptacle embedded in the floor panel. Thanks. Really thoughtful. When the walls finally stilled and the floor stopped trying to escape from under his shoes, Zane dropped to his knees and rested his forehead on the cool tile. Trial 5 better be a massage, he said. The dome head replied. It is emotional stimulus. He looked up. What does that mean? The lights dimmed. A projection appeared on the far wall, grainy but recognizable. A crowded street, yellow cabs, a hot dog cart, people crossing against the signal. Then the camera panned and he saw a corner bookstore with a crooked awning. The bell above the door jingled faintly. He stared. How did you get this footage? Public domain records from your internet archives. We selected environments with high nostalgia indices. The camera lingered on a sidewalk chalk drawing. It was childish, crude, but unmistakably human. A stick figure with a smiling sun above it. His throat tightened. You're trying to make me homesick. We are observing effective response to memory triggers. Well, congratulations, he said quietly. You nailed it. The scene faded slowly, replaced by a blank wall, no sound, no stimulus. Just the echo of the jingle in his mind. The observers waited. Zane stood up, brushing his palms on his pants. So, what did I prove? That you possess an unusually high threshold for environmental fluctuation, the taller observer said. And that your emotional processing is deeply tied to sensory recall. Yeah, welcome to being human. We're basically walking memory soup. The dome head looked up at him. You did not ask for the trial to stop. Didn't want to give you the satisfaction. There was no satisfaction metric. Zane grinned, then winced. Okay, maybe a little satisfaction. You are cleared to exit the chamber. He walked out slower than he'd entered, legs aching from the temperature swings. His head throbbed faintly from the low oxygen segment, and the scent of that bookstore still lingered in his nose, even though he knew it was imagined in the corridor. He leaned against the wall. The taller observer followed. Was that the last of it? Yes, the data has been collected. Your responses will be analyzed. Great, so where's my medal? We do not issue medals. A sticker then? No adhesives permitted on shared surfaces. He chuckled and shook his head. You guys really know how to party. Your adaptability exceeds expectations. The council will consider this data during cultural integration planning. Glad I could help. There was a pause. The dome head swiveled slightly. Would you consider returning to the simulation chamber in 3 days? We intend to test your response to social isolation. You've never seen a man in traffic before, have you? No. Then you've already got that data. He pushed off the wall and walked toward his quarters. Every muscle protested, but his mind felt clearer than it had in days. He'd survived heat, cold, disorientation, and a full-on nostalgia ambush, all before lunch. Somewhere in the galactic records, he was now officially listed as a resilient anomaly. To him, it was just another Friday. When he reached his door, he turned back to the observers still hovering behind him. By the way, he said, if you're still analyzing food culture, I've got a recipe for chili that ought to really blow your minds. The dome head paused. Is it toxic? Only emotionally. He stepped inside, the door hissing shut behind him.